Tuesday's primary election saw a lot of runoffs and a recount in Tallahassee. To discuss the results, Gina Jordan is joined by WFSU's newest news team member, Alaijah Cross, news director Regan McCarthy, and political reporter Tristan Wood. We hear from some of the victorious candidates and get some analysis.
Were there any surprises for any of you guys Tuesday night?
I would say I was surprised to see Talithia Edwards and Tom Derzapolsky be so neck and neck.
Yeah.
To the point where it needs a recount now. I was surprised to see that when I was looking on the Supervisor of Elections site. But day of voting, they were so close, they were split by 88 votes just from Election Day votes. Mm-hmm. It was really close. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. Anybody else surprises?
Yeah, and on that a little bit, I feel like that race, of all people calling and asking me opinions, that was the race that a lot of just random people in my social circles were asking me about the most, because there were 6 candidates running for that race. So the fact that it's running to a recount, that we still don't know who the final 2 candidates in the runoff are going to be. Yeah. That really has drawn a lot of attention for a race that already had a lot of question marks and curiosity from people.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think how tight several of the races was quite a surprise. And then a thing that I would say is maybe not a surprise, but definitely a takeaway is how packed that November ballot is going to be, right? So we're going to have a lot of really big and interesting elections coming up, voting on a mayor, making decisions that could change the balance of power on the city commission, picking, our county commissioners. So I think that's a big local contest we're going to be seeing in November.
Yeah. All right, let's get into it. The Tallahassee mayoral race will be between Jeremy Matlow and Loran Osley. Matlow got slightly more votes than Osley did. They were both solidly ahead of Darrell Parks and Michael Faust. Tristan, what do you think we learned as far as what voters are looking for in the city's next mayor?
Well, it really comes down to there's going to be this fight between a more centrist Democrat who has a long-standing career in Democratic Party politics here in North Florida, and Loran Osley, versus Jeremy Matlow, who's been kind of this lead figure in kind of this progressive factional movement here in Tallahassee. What that's going to look like in the general election remains to be seen for several reasons. I mean, they were both really close, but something important to point out is that Darrell Parks, who came in third, got 25% support, and he was, ran as a more conservative-leaning candidate. It's important to note the general election electorate is very different than the primary electorate. So the outcomes of this race we can't really forecast to, what exactly that spells. But what's clear here is that Matlow performed the best with way less money spent either, directly from him and from, one-to-one comparing between him and Osley in fundraising, but also in outside money from political committees that were generally attacking Matlow, right? So he felt really good about his performance, but it remains to be seen, who's has the edge heading towards the general election.
Okay. Well, so Matlow and Osley will be going head-to-head, and here is what they each told us Tuesday night.
We're fired up. We've been putting in the work on this campaign to bring change to City Hall. We're ready for a transparent government. We're ready for a government that looks after everyday people, doesn't bend over for the same special interests, developers, and real estate interests who have been running the show my entire life. And I think the people have shown today by putting me in first place that that's a vision that they agree with.
General elections have a different electorate. What do you think you need to do win over folks that didn't vote for you or Loran, those that voted for Darrell, and also the new people that will be coming to vote in the general election? What do you think your campaign needs to communicate?
Yeah, so I think we stay on message. The electorate going into November is younger. I've been to a runoff before and was able to win then. But look, this campaign is going to be a campaign of contrast. Loran Osley comes from one of the wealthiest, oldest families in Tallahassee, and they've allied with Republican interests to spend millions of dollars to put negativity into our campaign. I come from the south side of Tallahassee, raised by a single mom who wants our city to work more for everyday people. This is a campaign of the people against wealthy special interests. That's the message we're going to be bringing into November, and it's up to the people from there.
This has been a tough couple of weeks for me. As you know, I lost my mother. So I want to thank my family and everybody who's been with us. For me, this is exactly what I love the fact that our Let's Talk Tallahassee has been working, and I've been listening and talking to folks around this community, and I'm excited about the opportunity to keep going.
Gotcha. One of the things about this race is both you and Matt Lowe got around mid 30%. And of course, the general electorate is totally different than the primary electorate. What do you think you need to do in your campaign going forward to win over general election voters who didn't vote in the primaries and win over those that voted for Darryl Parks or other candidates in the race?
I think we continue with our message of civility and working together to find common ground to move this community forward. I think people are tired of the division and the bickering, and they're ready for the community to come together around the things that are going to move us forward. I'm grateful that both Darryl Parks and I stuck to a positive campaign, and we stayed friends through all this. He ran a great race.
Couple of little passive aggressive digs there.
Yeah, certainly from both of them back and forth. And I think from their comments, it's clear that, the messages that they've ran on so far, they think will carry the day for them. So, I mean, Matt Lowe is likely to continue on the anti-establishment, more progressive messaging that he's carried throughout the course of his political career, where Osley is going to try to appeal to, a more centrist Democrat conservative coalition. And it's going to be very interesting to see which one of those coalitions wins out in the general election.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to City Commission Seat 5. Former Mayor Dot Inman Johnson will challenge incumbent Diane Williams-Cox in November. They were the top vote getters over third place finisher Tiffany Hill. Now, Alaijah, let's talk about Seat 3, okay? That was going to be the most interesting, I guess, because of this recount. There were half a dozen candidates. PJ Perez was the top vote getter. And then we have Tom Derzapolsky and we have Talithia Edwards separated by just 24 votes. So what's happening now with that?
Well, Supervisor of Elections Mark Hurley said it could be longer than a week. So we've got a little time. From what Derzapolsky and Edwards told me, they're kind of, while they're playing this waiting game, they're still kind of keeping that energy that they've been holding throughout the campaign. I think they had the realization last night, even though they were excited, they were kind of like, man, I wish this was a little wrapped up. Let's wrap it up a little bit. But they still had a good energy. And it sounded like they were kind of like, I'm serious about what I want to do. Both candidates seemed like they carried a lot of excitement about what they were doing and hope for the future of Tallahassee. They believe in what they're striving for. Yeah. So they both kind of had that same energy as far as what's going on next.
So here is some of what they told us Tuesday night. First, we're hearing from Perez, then Derzapolsky, then Edwards.
This isn't a situation where it's along party lines. It's just about, building back our neighborhoods, making our community stronger. I think my campaign has shown that we want people from all walks of life. This is how my classroom is. We have people from all different walks of life, all different families, all different backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds, racial, ethnic, religious backgrounds. This is what makes life interesting and fun, is that we all bring our own strengths and to this conversation. And for the people that didn't vote for me, I welcome the opportunity to go knock even more doors. That was part of a focus for us, is to do just a lot of voter outreach and just get to knock as many doors, see as many of neighborhoods as we possibly can, and just hear the stories that people have been telling me. And it's been fortifying and enriching, and I can't wait to do it again.
I think Tallahassee's speaking pretty clearly that it's time for a new way of governing, where we do so leading with respect and encourage the discussion of new ideas in a respectful way without teams and factions and 3-2 votes. And I think by the end of the night, we're going to see that that's the direction this city wants to go.
Well, I think that people are ready to see some fresh, new and hear some fresh voices and some fresh perspectives, right? This open seat gives a bit of a shake up to the city commission. And so just a lot of people were looking for just fresh ideas, someone who felt that had their ear to the ground and who could translate the needs of the people and the residents out in the community up to the dais. And so I'm up for it. Let's see how it goes.
Okay, so 2 of those will make it to November. We know PJ Perez will, then a question of Tom Durzapolsky or Talithia Edwards. 6 people in that race initially. That's the seat that Jeremy Matlow is vacating so he can run for mayor. I know it's early, and like Tristan, you've said primary is different from general, but does this race tell us anything so far about Tallahassee politics, what's happening in Tallahassee politics?
My main takeaway is that the kind of progressive coalition seemed to consolidate around PJ Perez, and that's what propelled him to his first place finish. You look at political consultant and lobbyist Max Hurley, formed at 6-7%, and he was formerly a consultant that worked with Matlow and Jack Porter. But it appears that coalition clearly, for the most part, consolidated around PJ. The interesting thing is this, situation with the recount with Tom Durzapolsky and Talithia Edwards is that it really is an underpinning of a rift in the non-progressive political factions, right? Talithia Edwards received the endorsements of Mayor John Daley and Commissioner Diane Williams-Cox, where Tom Durzapolsky, while didn't run as a progressive, he criticized stuff like the FSU-TMH merger, which Matlow was a strong opponent of. So some of the issues that have drummed up a lot of political disagreement locally has really manifested and coming to head in this recount between Tom Durzapolsky and Talithia Edwards. And, when we get the results back from that recount, it'll be clear which direction a larger section of the voting population agreed with.
Yeah, I would say that I don't think, Gina, that you can really use the results of this primary to read the tea leaves and know what will happen in the general, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the results of the general are still very much up in the air. But I think we do see, again, we've talked so much about that 3-2 split idea, right? The progressive faction of our local government and the more conservative faction. And I think we're seeing those 2 camps move forward, right? So we've got groups coalescing around those 2 camps. Those are the 2 camps that will be on the ballot in November. And then I think that will, depending on how those dominoes fall, will really impact what the balance of power looks like at the city commission moving forward. Depending on who's mayor and really depending on who is in this city commission seat, I think that will really depend on perhaps a 3-2 split continues, but it could be weighted the other way. Or maybe the 3-2 split goes away. I think that's something we're waiting to see and that we won't know until November.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and on that point about, it not reading the tea leaves too much head to the general, an important piece of historical information is, in 2022, now County Commissioner Christian Caban came in second place in the primary election for that seat. He ended up winning. He was above the third place candidate by 13 votes, and then he turned around and won in the general election, right? Mm-hmm. So the current placement of those candidates doesn't necessarily mean that's where they're going to finish. It's very difficult to tell, especially when you have such a crowded field with votes spread among so many different candidates.
Yeah.
And one other thing that I would point out, I know we talked a little bit about City Commission Seat 5 race between Dot Inman Johnson and Diane Williams-Cox. Again, Dot Inman Johnson is one of those sort of progressive candidates that we're seeing. She was there at the watch party for Jeremy Matlow's campaign. Diane Williams-Cox, of course, is the incumbent there. I think what I'm hearing from a lot of these sort of local government watchers is a surprise that Diane Williams-Cox didn't perform better, that race between Diane Williams-Cox and Dot Inman Johnson was actually a pretty close race there. And so, of course, they'll both go into the runoff and we'll see what happens in November. But I do think that that's another thing there where it was a little bit of a surprise.
Certainly because, the third place finisher, Tiffany Hill, got over 20% support, and she was
nearly a quarter.
Yeah, and she was very explicitly anti Diane Williams-Cox in her campaign. Mm-hmm. Important point to note, the primary electorate is not the general electorate. So that doesn't necessarily mean something, but people I spoke with thought that Diane Williams-Cox would have at least a much stronger performance, but that didn't manifest itself in the results.
Yeah, interesting. What did you guys hear when you were out talking to these candidates? Were there certain issues that stood out? You know, like we hear about affordable housing, we hear about growth. What stands out to you guys from being with these candidates on election day, primary election day?
I would say one thing that I heard Tom Derzapolsky mention was affordable housing, safe neighborhoods, and how important that has been to his supporters, what he's been hearing. But from Talithia Edwards, I felt like I heard specifically, we want to unity in City Hall and our city government. And I was hearing a little bit of that and thinking about how, I'm going to say messy, this race was. I can kind of understand why that was the point that she wanted to drive home a little bit. From school board member Marcus Nicholas, when I spoke with him at his camp, one thing he kind of emphasized was going into this school year with the focus of keeping and bringing in more students, kind of trying to address the way that the district has been dealing with underfunding due to losing even a small amount of students in the last year. So those have been things that have been pretty important that I've heard.
One thing that I thought was a really interesting piece of feedback from members of the public was a little bit of frustration about a lot of candidates. Like you were saying, what were the things they were talking about? What are their issues that they're concerned about? One of the big issues we're hearing again and again is people talking about change. We need change, right? We want to see change at City Hall. We want to see the government run differently. We want to see things happen differently. But they're not being explicit, like laying out a plan about how will that change happen? What will be different? And I think, that falls back on all of us here as journalists to push those candidates and get a little bit deeper into those questions. Okay, you think change is needed, but give me more. What does that change look like exactly?
Yeah. We know about the buzzwords, and we hear the candidates say them, but what are they planning to do about them? How important do you think is the mayor's race? We've talked a lot about the 3 and 2 faction at City Hall, and we know that most of the time the commission actually votes in lockstep, but we still hear about this 3 to 2 split. How might this change? Like we've said, it could even go the other way. How important is the mayor in that?
Fundamentally, I think the mayor's race gets the most attention because that's where most of the dollars are spent. You have most of the people that have more of a political identity running in those races, right? And that's the one that has Matt Lowe, who's been kind of like the centerpiece of this like progressive movement, right? But fundamentally, that's not how the power of City Hall really works. Like the mayor oversees over the meetings, but they don't have any like special power. It's a soft mayor system. Really,
they're just another city commissioner.
Essentially, yes.
They do get to, make decisions about when we're calling something for a vote, but they are just another city commissioner, unlike in other communities where the mayor might have a lot more like managerial power.
So really the stakes here aren't really one of those city races. It's kind of, if I had to describe it, I would say, is this progressive coalition going to gain control, or will they lose in the other candidates that represent different groups or constituencies in town? Will they have a piecemeal control? One takeaway I have, and it's important to point this out, a lot of the other election watch parties for other candidates took people that, are interns and our journalists here, took them around the city to different areas. But I was at like the Progressive Watch Party at Matt Lowe's Gain Street Pies Midtown location, and you had Dot Inman Johnson, PJ Perez, and Matt Lowe all there celebrating with the similar groups of volunteers and supporters. And it's very clear that they're, at this point, a united coalition. They share same messaging, same vision, same volunteers, a lot of the times similar donors. That block is clear. So to me, it's, do they win control, or do they maintain their current minority position where they are vocal about a lot of stuff, but ultimately don't have influence over changing the direction of the city of Tallahassee.
Right. And I think your point too is it's less clear what the other block would be. Like, we don't know for sure how some of these other candidates may or may not align. They're not as clearly united in their vision. We don't know whether Tom Derzapolsky and Lorianne Osley, how they might vote together. They're not showing up at the same campaign parties all the time, and so we don't have as much information about that.
And like, they've also taken differing public stances on different issues. Lorianne Osley said that she generally thinks the FSU TMH decision was the correct one, where Derzapolsky's been critical. So they're not really running on the same policy platform with the same donors and same campaign volunteers.
Yeah. And ultimately, it would be nice to think that it's not political at all. It's just they're voting on things that are important to them. But there is, like you said, something underlying that could make a difference in how they vote. Let's turn our attention to that Leon County School Board race. That was District 5 was the only school board race. And incumbent Marcus Nicholas handily defeated James Riley. And these board members really have their work cut out for them. I mean, they're dealing with a significant funding issue, a teacher shortage. Really, why do you want to be on the school board? It's a tough, it's just a tough time. So here's what we heard from Marcus Nicholas as those results were coming in.
We started this campaign in ensuring that despite the decreasing enrollment, we were still going to ensure that we collected and aligned other resources from other district partners so that students still had opportunities, right? And so that's why, from my campaign, I've raised, more than $100,000 through various grants that I've written, through people in the community giving to our schools to ensure that, yes, we are seeing on average, a little less than 1% per year, but 1%, that's every student counts. And so we can't lose any students. So, we have to continue to grind and push and fight for our students.
And Alaijah, you spoke with him, right?
I did.
He seems to still have the energy for it.
Yes, he does. And I will say, with my experience in covering schools, local education here in Tallahassee, that push to get students to come back, to get families, not even just students, to get families to come back to Leon County schools, that's heavy. So the district has hired a recruiting firm, CASA K-12, to actually put out a bounty on students that the district has lost or has never had. So students who have been homeschooled or private school, just to kind of really market the school, boost up the marketing. But every year has been a new marketing push for the school district in order to be able to get students and therefore get more state funding and therefore be able to pay teachers more, do different things with that money. So, the work's cut out for them for sure. Coming on the November ballot will actually be 2 tax referendums for Leon County schools. One is for the half-penny sales tax. Another one is a new property tax millage, which will pay teachers a little bit more money. It'll also go towards safety and security and other operational expenses. But, it's the point really with that push is, can you sell that to the voters of Leon County, to the taxpayers of Leon County? Would they be okay with saying, you can take the half penny off of my sales tax and also go ahead and charge that tax on my home? Or would they support that? Because a lot of the criticism towards the district right now is, what are you prioritizing your money on?
Yeah.
And so it's going to take a lot going forward. I think that's the school district. I know the board can't officially promote or push any kind of tax referendums, but it's going to take a lot informing the public on what they plan to do with that money.
Yes. Okay, so a couple of judges were reelected, Judge Jason Jones and J. Lee Marsh, both reelected. For November, is there a local race or an issue that you guys think we need to be paying close attention to?
Well, I think something to mention is, of course, we've got county races coming up in November. So those weren't included on the primary ballot at all. every year or every two to 4 years, I have to relearn how elections go, and remembered this year that county races, when there are not more than 2 candidates on per race, they won't be on the primary ballot. So we won't even see a lot of those folks until November. So that's just something to keep your eye on. These aren't all the races that we have to vote on. More are coming.
Yeah.
I think one of my takeaways, Gina, is just, as we continue into November, just quick plug for WFSU. We'll be here continuing to cover all of this. Local races really matter to us, and we'll be putting a lot of our attention there. We'll also be covering those state government races, looking at how the gubernatorial race goes, looking at those statewide offices, and of course our congressional race, Congressional District 2, where Neil Dunn has been serving. Neil Dunn, of course, has stepped down from that seat, and it's an open race there. So I think all of that will be interesting, and we'll have it all right here on the air for you on WFSU.
We will, yes.
And certainly, just as a personal plug, if you have any questions you want answered, that you're curious what these candidates' visions for stuff are, especially the city races as I follow them, feel free to shoot me an email at tristan@wfsu.org. That's TRISTAN@wfsu.org. I'll take any questions you have, hate mail if you really hate something I said on air.
No hate mail. No.
Fan mail, we love
Fan
the fan mail.
I would prefer that, but sometimes a little bit of hate gets the blood boiling.
Cookies.
Well, you guys, thank you for your coverage of the primary. It was a lot that went into it, especially Tuesday night, trying to chase down these candidates. Any final thoughts?
Keep listening.
We're at the intermission of these races, and Act 2's, about to get started. So
yeah, grab the popcorn. I think there's going to be a lot of interesting things to see.
True.
All right, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Gina.